Hello and welcome to the CEO1440 Show, where we talk about all things mortgage, real estate, you name it. We talk about a little bit of everything. However, one thing we talk about more than anything else is maximizing your 1,440 minutes every single day. You are the CEO of You Inc. And today we've got a guest that's going to talk to us about a bunch of really cool things, but we're going to talk about a silver tsunami. We're going to talk about people getting older. We're going to talk about a massive amount of equity that sits with people that are 65 plus and what's going to happen kind of generationally as we move forward. So I've got Phillip Vincent here. He is the CEO, I think founder of Mom's House. In addition to that, been a real estate agent for a lot of years, and I got a whole big list of questions. I don't know that I'll follow them. But hopefully at the end of this, you walk away with one or two things that will help you, whether you're in real estate, any business, because we've got this baby boomer population that I think impacts us all. Understanding what it is and how we can leverage it inside of our business, I think is super important. So Phillip, welcome.
John, thank you for having me here today with this $30 trillion, trillion, that's 12 zeros after the number 30, in equity that the boomers have and their parents. How they tap that throughout the rest of their life is super important to our economy, to what we do in real estate and in mortgage. And so I hope to add some value today to your listeners.
I think that if I had to go out, and I'm not a real estate agent, but if I had to be a real estate agent today, and they're always focused on a client avatar, who are you going to go after? And you see just this plethora of stuff, people chasing first-time home buyers, but they're now 40 years old. So yeah, it's like you're chasing somebody that's pretty much like, by the time I was 40, I was pretty stubborn and I was already set in my ways as to what I was doing. But you see so many people chasing that. And then you've got this other population over there that they're not on TikTok, or maybe they are, just not as much. And it's like, oh, they're almost forgotten a little bit. But all that being said, if I was an agent, I personally would do two things. I would be targeting older people, having creative solutions to them, talking to them like they like to be talked to. Maybe it's not the most fandangled thing. They still like to do things face to face. They appreciate real conversations. And then I would also be targeting on the older homes, because you've got a lot of older homes that need some work. But all that being said, kind of tell us a little bit. So Mom's House, tell us a little bit about Mom's House just quickly so people can get a feel for it. And then how you got started and how it kind of went from, you probably started in real estate and then parlayed into this. So a little bit about you, Mom's House.
Yeah, so I've been in real estate now 28 years. You can tell by my gray beard. I've been in this business a long time. I started off actually in new construction. I built my first house when I was 20, and it took me 10 years to get into the wholesaling side of the business. And so having a real estate license for 20 plus years, I don't use my real estate license to be an agent very often. I'm actually more of a real estate investor. So I like to buy houses where they have equity. It's a house I can add value to. If every house was retail ready, I wouldn't be very much of a rehabber. They just list it and sell it. But what I found is that the stats say that about 73% of all houses that get sold need to be updated. And I bet that number is probably closer to 90% when you're talking about an older home seller. I specialize in the niche of people that are transitioning from their forever home into senior living. And so what that does is it creates three things that I always say, if me and you are brothers and we find out today that mom has to move into senior living, we go, okay, what do we do? Where do we get the best care? There's a $1 billion industry, John, called the referral and placement business. I teach people how to do that, which is help the seniors and the adult children find the right care home. And as soon as they find the right care home, they go, it's $8,000 a month. And I say, John, you're the more affluent brother. You're going to kick in the difference between mom's pension and the $8,000, right? And you'll say, for a month or two, you might do that, but then we need to sell, say it with me now, we need to sell Mom's House, which is the name of the company. What it does is it creates organic real estate leads of these families that have owned it for 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 years sometimes, that it's been in the family forever. And they need to unlock that equity out of that home and also help with the stuff. So from the high level, they're dealing with 100 things at that moment, but the three that we specialize in are the big three: finding the right care home, helping them get that home equity unlocked, whether that's a listing or rehabbing it to sell or buying it as an investor where I rehab it to sell. We actually do all three of those things and including this stuff. And it's funny, John, because it goes, you don't need to sell your house that you've lived in for decades until there's that flashpoint of moving into care. So it goes starting with care, and it goes, what about the house and the stuff? But then to get them there, you go, we got to take care of the stuff to get to the house to get back to senior living. So it goes, whoop. I need to come up with a good analogy for what that does, but it goes left to right and then back across.
I think that what it is, everybody has unique problems. And as you solve one problem, there's another problem. And it doesn't matter. There's always the next problem. And I like to say, so we've talked and we're looking at doing some stuff with Zoom Casa, right? I took a job with Zoom Casa as the chief revenue officer. So really diving in and super in depth there. And we like to say that we're not in the real estate business. We're not in the loan business. We're in the problem solving business. So people come to us and I don't know, we could be a perfect solution for everybody, but we might not be a perfect solution for that individual. And the same with you. Everybody that you talk to, at least today, nothing's come out. We're still all going to die at some point. And so that you have an event where a house needs to be sold, stuff needs to be dealt with, and a lot of homes do need rehab. They're solving a very unique problem that, whether you like it or not today, is inevitable for most of us, in that something's going to happen with us. I don't anticipate living forever.
And Johnny, you can only imagine, back to the analogy of you and I being brothers, if we live across the country, mom's back where she lives, and now we need to find that equity for care, and we also need to take care of mom. You don't move a healthy mom into senior living. To spend our time trying to rehab that house ourselves is probably not the best use of our time. There's a lot of bridge loans and things out there that are 24% interest for them to put that new deck on or the new roof. And then there's something called the cost versus value guide that anyone can Google. I'm a big fan of it. Find it for your city. What do you think the average bathroom replacement is in the United States, John, if you had to guess?
If I had to guess, $17,000.
You're close. It's like 24,000, like 23.5. But that's the cost. What do you think the value is that it added to the home?
Probably a bathroom, depending on how dated they were and how bad it was. I'm going to say it's probably going to give you 35. If it costs 23, you're probably looking at 175% of your money.
If only that was true. And that's the mind-blowing part. It's about 60% on the dollars. You're going to get about 14 grand back in value of the house. And that's what people don't know, that improving the house, when you do that, to get to that retail number, if you're paying for it and you're paying retail dollars, right? That's the thing, the retail dollars, that's when it really is, hold on, wait a second. I have to rehab the house, but I don't want to. I don't have the money, time, effort. If you had somebody else do that for you who knew what they were doing, that becomes very valuable.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? So we talk to homeowners every single day across the board, and we see a lot of times there's a belief. I was talking to a gentleman the other day. His house is in terrible shape, right? He's got cancer. Wife has dementia. They're at that point. They've got some equity in their house, not a ton. And they're at that point where probably senior living, it's definitely in the cards. They're trying to figure out what to do. They can no longer keep up the house. And in his mind, he's still 40 years old and going to do it himself. In his mind, he also is remembering the prices of he was buying his Chevy, a Chevy Chevette was $3,000, and that's still locked in the cost to do things. So there's a lot of delusion in people, and not from a bad standpoint. They just don't understand what's really happening. And
a lot of them think paint and carpet is a rehab.
Yeah. Paint, carpet.
I wish it was just 2 items. When you see that punch list of what it takes to really rehab a house, they're always shocked every time.
Yeah, and you had mentioned something earlier that I think most people don't realize. And it's one of those things you just go about your life and you don't really know what's going on. You had mentioned senior living, $8,000. Just for people, what is it? And you talk to thousands of people across the country. What is the average cost to put mom into some type of senior care?
It's a loaded question because there's levels of care. So I'll run through it for the people who love stats. I'll go through them fast. You've got independent living, which is basically, it's like an apartment with some care, very little care. But they do things for you like your meals and your laundry. In fact, guys even our age, if we go see independent living, you're like, I would like to live there now. Independent living. But then it goes assisted living, memory care, skilled. And so let me go through the averages. In independent living, it's anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000 a month. And as I go up this, I want everybody to know that they're more profitable as a industry on the lower levels of care, charging less. You'll think that, they're just trying to get me up to memory care. No, it's because the level of care goes up. So then it goes to assisted living. That's anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 a month. Then memory care can easily be $8,000 to $12,000 a month. And then skilled can be 10,000 plus, 10 to, I've seen it as high as $24,000 a month for skilled. each one of those, John, is unique because you might be in your forever home. And I always think of the yard darts. Remember in the 70s, that game, you threw the yard dart up in the air? Wherever, you land right in one of those hoops. And wherever when you land, you're probably going to go up the ladder of care as you need it. So you might start off in assisted living, but then you might go to memory care, and then you might go to skilled, or you might just land right in skilled depending on how long you stayed at the house. One thing I find about most people, it's a unique service they offer because almost everybody says, I wish I would have done this sooner. And the sooner you get into senior living, the longer life you're most likely going to have because you got to the care that you needed. Things like 3 square meals a day, of pain management or medication management. Those are all things that when people are by themselves that they have trouble doing. And so everybody wants to stay in their house forever. And the stats actually 93% want to age in place. I thought that was funny because I thought it was 110% wanted to age in place. I thought everybody wants to age in place, but they want to stay there as long as they can, sometimes to the detriment of their own health.
Yeah, I know with my grandmother, as she was getting older and older, she would sometimes she just didn't have the passion to cook anymore. Things no longer tasted good. Yep. And my aunts and different people, there was a lot of family around. She wasn't, but they would bring her food and it was just not on her checklist of important things to do any day. Yep. And so she started to get skinnier. She ended up in some kind of assisted living. We had somebody going to the house and doing different things, but it's one of those things you don't prepare for until it's there. So I thought that was really interesting. Now you talk a lot about the senior tsunami and all of this just wave of people. And we talk about it a lot on our end. There's some stats I've seen stats, 10 to 15,000 people every single day reach age 65. 70% of all maybe it's not 70, 60% of all that.
Yeah, 70% will end up in care.
And so 70% end up in care. Isn't 55 or 60% of all equity is in people like seniors?
Yes, they have all the equity. So mom's house is what's going to pay for that care for most Americans.
And so as you go through, you have to, and people don't usually start thinking about this. Yes, Duke? My son is here. He's got a problem. Duke, we're on a podcast. Come on over. If you're going to come in here and what can I do?
He's going to karate chop somebody.
You think you got a splinter? I can't fix it right now. I do not have any tweezers. I have no tweezers. Look, both of my kids are joining.
The whole family.
No tweezers, Duke. Maybe mommy's got something.
I always give my kids a hard time when they have that. I say, you know what helped that was lemon juice. And they're like, what? I just mess with them.
Yeah.
We were talking about the care homes and how long they live there. And you said that 70% are going to live in long-term care. What's even more interesting than the 60, because they're not moving into senior living at 65, right? They're moving in at 82. Here's the interesting stat. 4,000 people a day turn 85 in our country. So that 10,000 as they age is going to turn into 10,000 turning 85. But right now it's at 4,000, but 10,000 a day are turning 65. But they're way closer to moving into senior living at 85. But that's still 4,000 people a day right now. Over the next 20 years, that's why it's a tsunami. The numbers are all pointed up and to the right.
Yeah, and I've seen just some crazy stats between now and 2035.
Yeah.
That's a big number. Yeah. And then I also see a lot they talk about this wealth shift, right? As mom's house, and we call it that, right?
Yeah.
As it gets shifted down, it's maybe handed down to the grandkids or somebody else, right? This shift of equity happens and tax law and different things that are out there. It's a very interesting dynamic. And mom's house, I'll get back to that. You guys you teach real estate agents, different people. How do you go out and find these moms, we'll call them, and then you do a placement into senior living, and they get paid some kind of fee, right? And it's usually roughly the first month's rent or the first month's, what is it called? Rent? What do they pay?
Yeah, it's not a commission. So you don't even have to be an agent to do referral and placement, but but a lot of people that do it are either they have a health background or they have a real estate agent background, and they start to get into this business because it's kind of being a referral and placement agent akin to being a buyer's agent for senior living. It's like being a buyer's agent because the community pays you 1 month's rent. And so when you think about that, they sell their forever home. That might be the last listing that they'll ever have. But then there is also a buyer's agency fee. It's not called that because it's not a commission, but it's the senior living industry pays a referral fee of 1 month's rent is the average.
And again, I have a large just large dynamic of different people that are doing this. How does somebody go about kind of getting into that? Let's say I am a real estate agent. I'm plugging along. I'm out trying to find listings. I'm scraping around trying to make a living, which a lot of people are. They're working hard.
Most
agents. Sometimes not. It's not always fruitful as far as, and I'm coming into these people and I see the agents today that are having a lot of success are the ones that show up when they show up at a listing appointment or they show up to talk to somebody. They show up with more tools, right? They've got a whole suite of solutions to help solve that individual's problem.
Yep.
And it might be that they know a bunch of people that do fix and flips and they have a bunch of investors in their area. They've got a bunch of lenders that can help them do different things. They've got crews that can do clean out. They've got people like Zoom Casa. They come to us and we'll buy the house, renovate it, and do some different things for them. So they show up with a whole, I call it a cornucopia, which is just a fun word to say, but they show up with this whole basket of goods.
Yeah.
And this could just be like, why doesn't every agent talk to you about just adding this to their basket of goods?
They should, John. You started this conversation off today with what niche should you go after, and you mentioned first-time homebuyers. I can name 10 different reasons why I don't want to work with first-time homebuyers as my niche. You could work with divorce cases or people getting transferred. Okay, those are better, or maybe people moving up in size of house. But when you start looking at seniors, when they're doing that forever move and they have equity, and those are the people that are true motivated sellers. And so for me, the other people, have you heard the stories about agents? They show a first-time home buyer 50 houses, they find the perfect one, and then the father-in-law kills the deal. Back in my day, or this foundation, and it's just, I just don't want, or divorces, both sides are cantankerous to each other. Every agent should do this. When you hear the stats that 1.4 million of the 2 million agents didn't do a single deal last year, imagine finding a new revenue source that matches just as high as the average commission for doing the referral and placement. We call it double dipping in real estate when you got this listing and the buy side. You'll get the listing and you'll get the buy side of not of another home, but of senior living. They'll pay you 1 month's rent. Every agent should do that. Here's the stat, everyone. If you're a real estate professional or if you're in healthcare right now and you're listening, this is where you should be working. There's no doubt about it. For the next 20 years, it's only going up and to the right. This is where you should be putting your eggs in this basket because that tsunami is going to grow more and more. You had talked about till the year 2035. I really think we're going to hear presidents in 2028 and 2032 when those elections happen, they're going to run on trying to keep boomers safe because they vote. They have that $30 trillion in equity. We're going to hear a lot more about the word seniors and senior living over the next 10 years. It's unprecedented in our country. We've never, it just flipped recently. I think it was about a year ago. There's more people over 65 than there is under the age of 18. And we don't have time to go into what that means for our economy, but it's not the best thing because they consume, they don't add to, right? They've already made their money. And so we have a lot of changes happening. And agents who don't have their lead source figured out, that's the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And I remember the stat I wanted to give you guys. If you wonder if you should do this or not, here's one thing I want you to know. When you compete for listings, normally, you're competing against 2 million real estate agents. There's less than, and write this down, everybody, there's less than 1,500 people in the nation doing referral and placement. 1,500. And I laugh at that number because I'm in St. Louis. I think there's 14,400 agents just in St. Louis, right? Just here in this one county. And would you rather compete against 2 million or against 1,500?
It's a staggering amount. And like we talk to a lot of every single day at Zoom Casa, we're talking to people that are reaching out, right? Because we advertise for a cash buyer and different stuff. And they're coming to us. That's why we connected in that we have a lot of similarities. We don't do what you do and you don't do what we do. And so it's a symbiotic relationship to where that's beneficial. But I just think for agents across the board, I see so many people that are working so hard trying to just carve out their living. And it's unfortunate that they're putting in all that work and just the ROI is not getting there. And what I often say is every single real estate agent and lender, everybody, to make $1 million today, a year, is not hard. It's very hard to acquire the skills to do it. Like you have to understand marketing. You have to understand these key components. Once you do that, it's an easier path than ever because you have the whole world as like you can advertise across the whole world. You can open up a Spotify shop and sell. Kim Kardashian creates a line of clothing and it's worth $1 billion. Conor McGregor, he's a UFC fighter, decides he wants to make some scotch and it's $1 billion company. So that could have never happened before, but now it's easier than ever, yet to acquire the skills is where people really kind of fall off. So I'm sure I can't just go drive around to my senior living facilities and say, I'd like to bring you people. Maybe you can. I'd like to bring you people. Will you pay me if I give you a referral?
It's funny in that sentence, I would stop you right there, use the F word. And we don't use the word facilities, we use the words communities. And so when you think about your parent, you want to move them into a community, not the F word of a facility. That thing's very clinical. It almost sounds like prison. We're trying to get away from the facility word and use the word community. And so most agents will put their foot in their mouth 5 times without even knowing they're doing it. And that's why the training, you just said it, that education of how to break into where this cheese is headed, it does take education, especially for real estate agents. A lot of agents remind me of Oprah. You remember when she gave cars away to everyone in the audience? You get a car, you get a car. Agents give cards away. You get a card, you get a card. And they think that's networking. They're not. Senior living needs you to be something different. You need to fix the problems of senior living, which is what we specialize at Mom's House. And so through our training, I can help agents stand out in that field. Helping, the word is census. It's just a fancy word for occupancy, no different than 100 apartments. In senior living, if you have 100 beds, and you only have 60 people living there, you're losing a ton of money every month. And so they care about occupancy. And so I teach people how to have an educated conversation about the problems of senior living, namely the census, to be a free census conversion tool for that industry, and watch them lean up in their chair and go, yeah, you're speaking my language. I have that problem every day. When can we do business together?
So census is the term they use for churn in the turnover in their beds.
Yes.
So interesting. Again, I know very little about this space outside of that people go there and we have people that do it. And what I've heard a stat or something about how frequently a bed actually turns over. It's not, you think somebody goes there and you only know about the handful of people in your life that went there. And Aunt Sarah was in a place for 9 months and so lived at I guess if I go to the assisted living, or they were first in the in-living place where they just, played bingo and stuff and had their meals done. And then they moved and they were there 3 or 4 years. What is the turnover inside of there? I think it's a lot shorter than what most people might think.
Yeah. And even the term, we're full and we have a wait list, they turn over about 50% a year. That's the blended average across all 4 levels of care. But for all my data people out there, independent living is the longest because you're the healthiest. That's about 21 months. Assisted living, the average stay is about 18 months. Memory care is about 12 months. And then skilled is about 9. But you blend all those together, they stay about 24 months total in one of those 4 levels of care. And so what happens is, and forgive the analogy, it's kind of like the front door is open and the back door is open. People are coming in, but they're also going out to higher levels of care or passing away is what's usually happening when they're going out the backside of the door.
Again, if you're selling this, or if you're facilitating the census into communities, not facilities, then there's constantly the next person. And you don't ever know when you sit down with someone. There's a thing called the larger market formula where it talks about it's a pyramid. And on the top of the pyramid is at any given point, if you go to an apartment building, at any given point, there's 3% of those people that are ready to move and buy right now. If your only message is see a house today, you only resonate with a very small percent. Then there's the next percent down, it's 17%. They're kind of thinking about it, but not ready to go out and see a house. So again, probably into here, if you go out to 100 just lay people in the 65 plus, there's probably 3% that are looking actively to be into a facility, 17% that have done a little bit of research. There's then another, call it 20%, that know at some point we're going to need to. They understand their options. But about 60% of people, according to the larger market formula, are more or less unaware even what the process is. They know that something needs to happen, but they're not preparing for it at all. So what we try and do on the sales side is target the people at the bottom. Like just with, hey, senior living might cost this much. Have you prepared? Are you looking for? What are your levels of needs? So your messaging, do you guys teach on messaging as well? And if Definitely. You do, you should look at, it's an actual thing, like the larger market formula. And most people start at the top, especially you see lenders do this a lot. Real estate agents do it. Come see my house. No, come talk to me about someday buying a house. And you flip that over, you get a lot more people trickling to the bottom. What do you see there?
let me speak to that based on what you just said. Americans do really poor at estate planning as a country. And so they say things like, that's my kid's problems, or you'll take me out of here from a stretcher, right? I hear that hundreds of times. That's somebody else's problem. They don't do that. And so a lot of Americans, I bet that, you said 60%, I bet it could be 80, 90% in senior living. They think that's never going to happen to them because everyone wants to age in place. And so what normally happens with senior living is there's a flashpoint, John, and it's almost always a fall. About 64% of the time it's a fall is what happened. And now they didn't prepare the proverbial guns to their head saying, hey, when mom gets out of rehab in 21 days, she can't move back home. Where are you going to move her? And you talk about running around like a chicken with your head cut off. These families are trying to make a really hard decision in a short amount of time to find the care home. And then as soon as they do, they go, how are we going to pay for this? And that's when mom's house becomes a big thing. And what do we do with this stuff? And people always say on my webinars and podcasts and things, they say, what about long-term care insurance? And I'm like, I'm glad you brought that up. John, what do you think the average, or how many boomers do you think have long-term care insurance? What percentage?
Probably very few. Less than 5.
3.5%. Yeah, 3.5%. And what's funny about that number is about 5% of Americans are wealthy enough to pay for care, not even needing to sell the house. I bet that 5% overlaps with the people who actually bought long-term care insurance. So they were already taken care of anyway. The people that had money bought long-term care. The people that didn't plan is the 95% that never had it. So we're talking about the vast majority. The house sale becomes the thing that pays for this care when it's thrust upon them, usually from a catastrophic event like a fall with a broken hip, most likely something like that.
Yeah, my question number 13. So I have a degree originally in exercise physiology. So I'm like, I understand that space. And I had on here that about 70% of all cause mortality in older people are from falls, right? And you don't realize that you're just walking. Our muscles get weak. Very rarely are people get old. They're not doing weight bearing stuff. They slip on a curb and they fall over. Their bones are brittle. And I think this is only going to get way worse with Ozempic because it's actually making people's bones even more brittle and their muscles going away. Yep. So I think that this problem is only going to get higher unless they change that. But so they slip, they fall. All of a sudden, they're fine one day. They're plugging along. They're driving. They're going to the grocery store. They're doing all their stuff. They slip on the curb. They didn't see it was there. They're not strong enough to catch themselves. They fall. They break their hip. And I think from the time that happens, most people, if from a slip and fall over age 65, the vast majority of people are gone in 9 months from that day.
Yeah.
So it becomes what actually kills them relatively quickly. And you end up with all kinds of problems. You end up from healthy golfing to slipping on the way out in the parking lot to in a facility really fast. And they then have to get their poop in a group really quickly to figure out who's going to pay for it. Mom's got this. She needs care. She needs bedpans, the whole 9 yards. Is that where do most people reach out? Are you in there as almost a crisis counselor? I'm sure there's a different
lot of times. Yeah, and you just reminded me of a saying. It's blunt, but I think the listeners can hear it. I've learned two things. I've been in senior living now 16 years. I've learned two things from senior living. Don't get old, and if you do, be rich. And what I mean by that, don't get old, is keep your mobility as long as you can, because the mobility is the thing that's going to put you into the care home faster. A lot of people, a lot of boomers especially, I'm going to get my 30 years in, I'm going to sit on this couch and retire. They had the goal to retire, work at one company and retire and then live, right? And so that sedative lifestyle is really creating problems. They lose their mobility. That's what's going to fast forward. Another thing too, guys, if you guys take anything from this today, go to your parents' house, grandparents' house, and pick up any trip hazards you see. That's one thing we could all be doing to help our families right now. Keep them from tripping as much as we can possibly.
Oh, it's a good thing. I'm going to share something with you. I don't share this with a lot of people. I've got this book here that I did years ago, and I have a thing called my Project 100. It's cool, like and I've mapped out a whole bunch of stuff, like how old all of my kids are going to be. When I turn 100, my goal is to live to be 100. I optimize most things inside of my life for this, but I've got all my kids, like my son, Jack. He's going to be 69 when I turn 100. I was 31 when I had him. I think he's going to have a couple of kids. He's a good-looking guy. The ladies like him. I think he's going to be successful in reproducing. So his kids, when I'm 100, he should have 2 to 3 kids between the ages of 30 and 40, which lands me in the great-grandpa age. They're probably 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And so I mapped that out for all of my kids. How old's my wife going to be? All that. And then I mapped out a bunch of goals that I have. I want to be able to pick up my grandkids overhead, walk 5 miles, still go hunting alone. You can have your own list if you're not a big hunter. I want to be able to jump off the back of my boat, right? Be able to jump in the water, swim and climb up a ladder, ride a bike, get up off the floor. So I mapped out all these things. And then everything that I do, there's not many decisions in my life that aren't optimized towards this as far as trying to hit this. And I don't know if it was a conversation with you or someone else, but also that's my physical part, but you still have to also be planning out, what am I going to do? What's the financial part? I have one aspect of it. I could be really poor at 99 and hit 100 and have no food to eat. I'm optimizing all areas. I think that's something else, just as you're listening here, everybody has parents at some point. We came into the world somehow. And trying to just make sure that the decisions you're making today, you'll be happy and you can live with when you're 100. So I want to make sure that the things I do today, and changed a bunch of stuff, like when I go to the gym, I used to can I still bench press 400 pounds? I've bench pressed 400. Today, my goal has nothing to do with that. I'm like lifting a kettlebell over my head. This is my imaginary grandkid. If I can lift a 80-pound kettlebell over my head 25 times today, I'm hoping I can lift up a 32-pounder in 28 years or whatever it is.
You want to be able to get down on the floor and play with your grandkid. That's a good goal to have.
And it's helped me a tremendous amount as far as mobility today. I'm in my early 50s. So optimizing for that, I started in my, 45-ish. I got 8 years into it. But it's overall has made my quality of life better. So It's just something, what you plan on has a tendency. If you don't plan for something, you're going to get kind of...
Yeah, it'll happen to you if you don't plan for it. And I think the things I've learned is keep your mobility, or don't get old is what I'm saying there, and be rich. It's easy for me to say be rich, but what I really mean there is you need to plan when you're young, because you're going to want options in senior living when you get there. And if you haven't planned, the options are going to be made for you, and you don't want that. It's like kind of like the DMV ran the senior living. That's what Medicaid is. Medicaid. And so today, what I've been talking about, guys, is private pay communities that are anywhere from $4,000 to $14,000 a month. You want to be able to plan your life to where you have enough income to be able to pay for that in your final years.
And you said something about being rich. I think that there's 3 ways that you can be rich, right? Rich is not just money. You can be rich in family, right? If you've got a great family, you'll be taken care of and you can rely on that. A lot of people don't today. You can be rich physically, right? You can be super healthy, and granted, a slip or a fall might still happen. So there are people that are rich physically, not family, and then you can also just be rich from a income standpoint. So I think that really resonates, right? Be rich. Yeah. And rich in all 3 of those will, again, help you.
To put that in perspective, too, I think it was Henry Ford. No, not Henry Ford. It was Mr. Walton that owned Walmart. At the end of his life, he was in so much pain, he said, I would trade all of my fortune for health. And so those riches, the money doesn't make your back feel better.
No. So you guys do this day in, day out. How does somebody, let's say I'm a real estate agent, I'm listening to this, and I want to get into this. I know you're all over the place. I made the mistake of clicking on you on social media. Now I've got a cookie, and you chase me around with ads. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I'm getting mail from AARP, the whole 9 yards. It's triggered a whole cascade effect. But I'm okay with it. I like the marketing. You guys do a good job. Your ads are persuasive. You got your kid on there. I like it. It's good stuff. I like to watch other people do marketing because we're all doing marketing to a certain extent. But how do people come after you? How do you get involved with them? If I am an agent that wants to go out and add this to my mix, how do we do that? How do I?
It's not for every agent. And so what I want to do is give a free training to everyone listening today. The best way is just to go to momshouse.com/start. And there's a free training there, and see if this is right for you. I spent a couple hours teaching you about what we've talked about here today, John. And for some agents, it's perfect, and others, it's not. And it comes down to the word empathy. If you're not sure if you have empathy or not, go ask your wife. She'll tell you if you're empathetic or not. And this is probably one of the only niches that I've seen where I think females have the advantage, because I'm being stereotypical there. I think there's more empathy in females than there is in men. I have a lot of men that are successful at this, but we definitely have to tap into our empathetic side to do this successfully.
Yeah, and I would probably agree. I think that, I would agree. The Silver Tsunami, I see that in your stuff. I've used it. We have something inside of our school community. There's a whole section where it tells people about the Silver Tsunami. What would be like some key highlights inside of there, like big stats? I know you have a lot of stats. It's a lot of what you sell is based on stats. What are some really big stats that people just need to know about, hear about, and just be aware of? Even if they're selling real estate and they don't want to do this, it's still stuff that you should be aware about. What would be some really good Silver Tsunami stats from the man himself?
Like the F word facility, people are very, what's the word that I'm looking for here? They're worried about how things look or the image. And so even the word nursing home, when somebody uses the word nursing home with me, I know they're not in senior living. I'll say that again. If you say the word nursing home to me, I know they're not in senior living, because if they were, they would not say that word. They would say what the communities actually call the level of care. And so it's a weird thing where daughter Judy, she still runs to Google as soon as she finds out mom fell and now has to move into one of these. She's Googling nursing home near me, yet the industry doesn't call it that anymore. And so the tidbit I have for anyone that's in that 60, 70% that's thinking about it, go tour your communities way before you need it. Understand what your options are, because when that gets thrust upon you, it's a really hard thing to figure out. And I liken it to this. Is it harder to pick the place where you drop mom off for 24 hours a day or pick a listing agent? Obviously, one's a much bigger deal. Where mom's going to get care 24 hours a day is a much bigger deal than a listing agent. Now imagine helping them with that really hard thing, and they need to sell the house. You're already sitting there with the families. This creates the most perfect organic real estate leads I've ever found. Guys, I've spent millions of dollars on marketing, done every type of marketing. I love talking about where the cheese is headed. If you want to get paid to work with motivated sellers, you should go to my training.
We like it because we like to purchase homes from people that are going through that path.
Yep.
And advance them some of the money. We help facilitate the transaction.
Yep.
And I just think it's great. And you have to go out and look and identify, regardless of what business you're in, every single day is about discovering what are key niches, what are areas of opportunity for me as an individual where I can go in and excel, and look for places that everybody's not. So if this is if you do it, live in a community where there are older people that are getting older every day, that's how it works. And you can identify where they're at, and you've got some facilities and different stuff, understanding how to go in and sell that, or to provide, really, you're providing solutions to a family in their time of need. And if you're not doing it from a standpoint of taking advantage, they're not being charged extra to go to this. They were going to pay that anyways.
Yes, that's right.
You just help connect the dots.
It's almost like if you go there to the community without a placement agent helping you, it's like trying to buy a house without an agent representing you. That's how I look at it. Why would you ever do that if that person can represent you? At least the way it used to be for buyer's agents, that placement agent will represent you for free. You want their help. You cannot trust Google reviews on where you give mom 24-hour a day care.
And do people go out? So are they going out and just canvassing it's not facilities.
The communities?
Community.
Yeah.
The community are they going out and canvassing that? Do you help them identify the communities?
Yeah.
So do you have a network? Like in my county, could I come back through you and they're like, hey, here's the 15 communities in your area. Sally's the girl at the front desk. Go talk to her. Are there national relationships that are set up? I know a lot of these, I think, are like franchises that are owned at a national level. Is that how most of the communities work?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. There are some franchises, but guys, let me tell you how fragmented this industry is. There's 70,000 private pay communities. Only about 3 to 6% of them, depending on who's selling who this week, are actually part of those franchises. So most are independent that either own one, and some of the regional players own 3 to 15 communities, but I wouldn't really call it a franchise. They just own a lot of real estate in that. And back to your question, when people go search for care, they have no idea what level of care. So remember how I went through the prices earlier? Which one do you think they all want to land on, John? It's independent living. Oh, just a little bit of help, because it's only $3,000 a month. But really, if they need assisted living and it's $8,000 a month, what a placement agent does is we meet with the family to direct them in the right place. Because what happens sometimes, John, and we could talk about this for hours, they will take mom to a tour during the middle of the day, makeup's done, she's been fed, and she might have sundowners or something like that. So she might get placed into a lower level of care, and it's cheaper, but within 30 days they go, hey, mom doesn't need independent living, she needs higher level, whether it's assisted or memory care. Then they feel like they got bait and switched. And so if you work with a placement agent, we're going to help you land in the right spot at the beginning. That'll save a lot of heartache for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just want to know you just want the truth, right? You want to know what they are. Nobody's getting bamboozled here. They're going to figure it out after 30 days, how capable or incapable they are. Any big mistakes that you see? So I was shocked by that number. I've been told from people that number is way higher. Oh, so hard to crack into. Nobody will talk to you. You have to go to their corporate headquarters to get, but it sounds like it's a lot more relationship based if you actually know what to say. And you just get turned away when you show up with commission breath at their lobby asking if you can get a referral fee to place somebody in their facility for nursing care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like talking to a surgeon when they're doing surgery. That's not how we teach it. That's not the right way to do it.
Got it. Makes perfect sense. I showed up like a salesperson. I got treated like a salesperson.
That's
so
right.
It doesn't surprise me.
And it's always what's in it for them, right? Everybody cares about what's in it for them. When you show up as an agent only, you're just wanting listings. We know what you want, but what are you doing to help? Senior living is very collaborative when they know they can trust you and when they know that you care. Back to that empathy word. If you're just there for commission breath, it's going to be a difficult time. But if you want to build, and I'll come back to this, we talked about lead sources and the successful real estate agents. Guys, imagine doing one postcard that got you a deal 10 years from now. And what do I mean by that is I'm still doing real estate deals with people I met in senior living in 2011, and it's 2026. So these are, I always say there's one night stands and there's 50-year marriages. We're talking about building the 50-year marriages in senior living because they have these clients every day. And John, they've already raised their hand and said, we need this care. We need this to get our house sold. When you get that warm referral, these are truly the best leads I've ever found in 28 years of real estate.
And I would think if I'm the person sitting at the desk if my job, and I'm sure that there's this person there's a person there that does sales the same way there's a person that does sales at a health club, right? They're the grader. You come in, they talk about the facility, and they get paid a commission, right? Every time that somebody,
they hate the word sales.
But they do sales. They just start calling it.
They do sales, but they don't like that word. They're very cognizant about the words they say. They don't want to offend anybody. They are salespeople. They hate that word. Their job is to help you tour and make the right decision, but they don't like sales. They might get bonuses on top of their salary. But here's the thing. They get hired and fired over that census every day. So if they're not good at sales, they get fired. And so when we say we're a free census conversion tool, watch them lean up in their chair because that's anyone in senior living knows keeping that community full is what they talk about more than anything.
Yeah,
John, when I hear you talk, I know you need my training, my friend. I'm saying that lovingly because most agents left to their own devices will go in there and say it wrong, just like I did when I started in 2011. My big personality, John, I said everything wrong, and I had people pull me to the side and say, Phil, I know you're passionate. I can tell you that you care. Don't do this, say this, don't, and because it's a different language. And so, but here's why it's worth it to get this 50-year marriage of relationships where you get monthly reoccurring leads from the same lead source. It's worth your time to put into this. This is where the cheese is headed.
Everybody can make $1 million. It's the education gap that keeps you from there. And that's where, and I have no idea what your training costs, any of that. I want to just talk because we have agents and people that are doing this. They can go out and do it on their own, right? Yep. And hopefully they pull some things away from here. I would already have some ideas in my head of what my value could be, even saying the wrong word tracks, right? Like I've gotten great at CRMs. I can handle and manage. We'll do mailers for you. We can do all kinds of stuff. But add it with what you have, it's probably going to be better than what I have alone.
Yeah, you can figure it out. People do, and if you stay at it, it just takes a few years to figure it out. But this is just the rocket fuel. You're paying for the education, standing on what we already know works, just speeds the whole process up.
Yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer. But I did coaching, I did training, I understand. And again, I have no idea what it costs. Go to his website. But to pay $6,000, if that's what it is for some hours of training that gets you 3 or 4 deals, and it's that's a no-brainer if you can spend, and it's $10,000. If it's $10,000 and you make $10,000 in the first year trying it, you didn't lose anything.
You can make $10,000 back on your first deal because you actually get paid 3 ways. A normal placement fee on average is about $6,500. Normal commission is $10,500. Normal investment deal is about $17,000, and then helping with the stuff is a few thousand. You could make $25,000 helping one family. Think about that. Helping one family more than you are today, you could make $25,000, and they will give you a hug because of it, because they feel like they're on an island trying to figure this out.
So let me just break that down quick, and I've got just a few more minutes here. I try to keep these 45 minutes, but we're talking a lot. So they're getting money on the placement, potentially the sale of the real estate transaction. What other areas are they doing? Are you getting additional fees, services, different things?
Yeah, it usually has to do with their possessions. And for me, I've always used those as favor coupons. I've not made a lot of money off of the stuff, but I give those leads to my people that do the downsizing and do the clean outs, from treasures down to trash. Every house has them. And then what I found is those people become lead sources for me as well for the houses. So when they're there cleaning out the house, they'll send me the real estate lead. And when I'm cleaning out the house, I'll send them the stuff leads.
Got it. Okay. So like people doing estate sales, all of that.
Auctions, all of it. Yep.
That makes perfect sense. And anybody that doesn't know, the world that we live in today, with most things that you would see sold anywhere, there's affiliate programs on the back end. If I give you a link to sign up for Zoom will pay me $4 every month that you pay. Then they're happy to do it.
That's right.
So affiliates are all over the place. Biggest mistake that you see families doing, if you could get one message to any family that has parents that are 65 years old, one thing to prepare for that people consistently blindsided by, what would it be?
Lack of preparation is the big one. The problem is, as my parents they're not even 70 yet, the conversation, they just don't want to have it at all. They don't want to have these conversations. And having them get prepared, finding a way for them to tour is a big deal. Having their estate planning set up. Most people think a will is enough. It's not. With Medicaid look back of 5 years now, if you do estate planning today, it's planting a tree. The best time to estate plan is 20 years ago or today. If you haven't done that yet for your family, I always liken it to, do you like the state more than you like your family or your kids? If you don't prepare and it goes through probate, it could cost you a lot for your family. And so I think a lot of people are just not getting ahead of those things, crossing their T's before they need it. You can't fix all these things from an estate sale side at the time of when you need it. So you need some time in between there. So find an estate planning attorney and have those conversations early.
Yeah. And for anybody that's listening, that would be having a trust in place, some type of trust or something.
Correct. Not just a will. A will is not enough, especially if you bought it on the internet for $50.
Yeah. A will, for the most part, it's your wishes. I like to tell people, you can have a will that says your kids go to the aunt. Me, just some stranger, I can contest it, and a judge has to determine where the kids go. As crazy as that sounds, if you're driving around and you have kids and you don't have a will, I would be like driving extra slow and also doing hand signals, because the last thing you want is you have no say in what happens to your kids, anything. So having a trust is a really big thing.
And back to your point, people think it's not going to happen to them. It's 7 out of 10 people over the age of 65. So it's going to happen to most, John. They might be one of the lucky ones that lived in their house till they were 99, but most people are going to need this. So I think that's why we shouldn't be naive to the data that we have.
Yeah, and I think it's just being honest with yourself and with your family, and just you're having real conversations. I think that anytime we can prepare for something, whether it's going to happen or not, people pay for health insurance most of their life to not need it. We pay for car insurance most of the time to not need it. Yeah. And then you get to this, and then it's just, who knows?
Let me give you another one for a final thought. If you see your parents, here's what normally happens. One person has dementia, and then the other one, whether it's the husband or wife, is the caretaker of the one with dementia. The one that's the caretaker usually will pass away before, because caregiver fatigue is a real thing. So if you have a parent and you're like, oh, dad's taking care of mom, just know dad is suffering probably harder because he's not prepared to give 24-hour-a-day care.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Thankfully. Yeah. I think that whole end of life thing, I've had dogs, pets, right? Like it's stressful. And so anything that can be done we all have problems. Everybody has a number one problem inside of their life that if they were to fix that one thing today, all other things would become easier. And really the thing that we all do, I talked at the beginning about being the CEO of a business of one, right? You're the CEO of your Inc. Your only job every single day, identify the biggest problem that you have in your life, and then go out and work really hard to win one war. Win that war. If you do that, there'll be a new problem tomorrow. And through time, you will just erode at the biggest problems, and your life will get better. But you can only fight one. You can only fight on one front. There's only one of us. So Go out every day, identify the big war in your world, and go out there and fight it. if you are somebody that's struggling, trying to figure out how to make a living, and that's the one war in your life, check out Phil. Check out what he's got going on over there. He will chase you all over the internet. Once you click on his link, he will find you. But that's good. That means he knows what he's doing. He's marketing. He's figuring it out. And outside of that, this has been great. I think that what you're doing and what you're teaching people to do is definitely a service. It's a niche. And I didn't really understand it. I still don't. But I didn't understand until I got in this space how many people every single day there's more people that turn 65 today than the housing inventory for the next 3 years. So it's just crazy when you look at the sheer numbers throughout the course of the year. 4 or 5 million people are hitting that. Then the stat you gave me about number of people turning 85, that one's just, I have to still go back and do the math. I was a mortgage guy, so I can't add. That one's super surprising as well.
What is that, 1.5? 365 times 4,000? It's like 1.4 million. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. This year, there will be total homes sold in the U.S. somewhere around 4 million will be the number of homes sold. That many people it's a third.
Yeah, and just because you're 85 doesn't mean you're selling the house today. You can live to 108, right? It's more that they're just getting closer to that flashpoint of probably being in that 70% that need care. That's all they need.
That need care, and that ultimately will have something happen with the real estate as well. So if you put them in your CRM, there's a pretty high likelihood that if you put a whole bunch, you put 4,000 people a day in your CRM that are 85, there's a high likelihood that you get some of those people transact in the next 15 years.
No doubt. I would say even in the next 5. Even in the next 5 would probably be. The actuary would say 3 to 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you get them in there, you got to get them in your CRM. You can start with your CRM, and the government, they do it at birth. They give you a social, but they're going to tax you the whole way. So wherever your payday is, you want them in there before that. So this has been great. I appreciate it, Phil. This is awesome. We'll put a bunch of stuff in the show notes, how you can get to find Phillip and Mom's house. But if you are out there, you're struggling, you're trying to figure out what's the next spot, this could very well be it. And I think it's super cool, and I'm looking forward to learning even more.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Appreciate it.